It is the shortest verse in the entire Bible. 2 words. Jesus wept. John 11:35. That's it. No explanation, no theological commentary, no qualification. Just 2 words that have stopped readers cold for 2,000 years. Because here is what makes this so astonishing. Jesus already knew what he was about to do. He knew that within minutes, a dead man would walk out of a tomb. He knew the ending. He had the power to rewrite the moment entirely, and he was about to use it. And yet, he wept. Why? That question has occupied theologians, pastors, and ordinary people of faith for centuries. And I think the answer tells us something about the character of God that we desperately need to hear, especially if you are in a season of grief, loss, or pain right now. Let's go back to Bethany, because what happened that day is one of the most profound scenes in all of Scripture. To understand why Jesus wept, we have to understand who Lazarus was and what death meant in the world Jesus walked in. Lazarus was not a stranger. He was one of Jesus' closest friends. The Gospel of John tells us plainly, now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. John 11:5. This is a family Jesus visited, a home where he was welcomed. Martha, Mary, and Lazarus, these were people he laughed with, ate with, rested with. In a life of constant movement and ministry, this household in Bethany was something like a refuge. When Lazarus fell seriously ill, his sisters sent word to Jesus. The message was urgent, but also tender. Lord, the one you love is sick. John 11:3. They didn't ask him to come. They simply told him, because they believed that was enough. And here is where the story does something strange. Jesus heard the news, and he stayed where he was for 2 more days. Not because he didn't care, not because he was busy. John tells us exactly why. He stayed so that you may believe. John 11:15. By the time Jesus arrived in Bethany, Lazarus had been in the tomb for 4 days. 4 days mattered deeply in Jewish belief. There was a tradition that the soul lingered near the body for 3 days after death, hoping to return. By the 4th day, that hope was considered gone. Lazarus was not just dead. By their understanding, he was beyond reach. Martha heard Jesus was coming and went out to meet him on the road. Mary stayed home. Notice the difference. Martha confronts, Mary grieves. Both responses are human, and Jesus meets both of them where they are. Martha said to him, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. John 11:21. There is pain in those words. There is also faith, the kind of complicated faith that holds both grief and trust at the same time. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die. John 11:25. This is one of the great I am statements. Jesus making a direct claim about his own identity. He is not saying he can bring resurrection. He is saying he is resurrection. Life itself flows from him. Martha believes him. Yes, Lord, she told him, I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, who is to come into the world. John 11:27. Then she went back and got Mary. When Mary saw Jesus, she fell at his feet. She said the same words Martha had said. Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. John 11:32. Same words, different posture. Martha met him standing. Mary fell at his feet. And then the Gospel of John records something that has no theological necessity, something that is purely, entirely human. When Jesus therefore saw her weeping, and the Jews also weeping, which came with her, he groaned in the spirit and was troubled. John 11:33. The Greek word translated as groaned here, embrimaomai, is a deeply emotional word. It carries the sense of being moved in the deepest part of oneself, shaken, stirred, overwhelmed. Jesus looked at the weeping crowd. He looked at Mary on the ground. He looked at the tomb, and he asked, "Where have you laid him?" "Come and see, Lord," they replied. And then, the shortest verse in the Bible, Jesus wept. John 11:35. He wept, not a polite tear. The Greek word here, edekruson, means he burst into tears. It was not a composed, dignified moment. It was the full weight of grief. Why? He knew. He knew what was coming. He knew that in moments he would call Lazarus out of that tomb. He knew the ending, and still, he wept. I think this is one of the most important moments in all of Scripture for understanding who God is. Because what Jesus shows us here is not that he is above our pain. He shows us that he enters it. The crowd watching said, "See how he loved him." John 11:36. They understood immediately. Love was the explanation, not weakness, not confusion. Love. The writer to the Hebrews echoes this perfectly. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to empathize with our weaknesses. Hebrews 4:15. Jesus is not a distant God, watching human suffering from a safe remove. He stands at the graveside. He weeps with the weeping. He is troubled by death, not because he is powerless before it, but because he hates what sin and death have done to his creation. And then he does something about it. He went to the tomb. He asked them to roll the stone away. Martha protested, "Lord, by this time there is a bad odor, for he has been there 4 days." John 11:39. 4 days, beyond hope. Jesus looked up and prayed. Not a long prayer, a quiet one. "Father, I thank you that you have heard me." John 11:41. Then he called out in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." John 11:43. And Lazarus came out, still wrapped in burial cloths, still blinking in the light, alive. Jesus said, "Take off the grave clothes and let him go." John 11:44. Here is why this story matters for you today. You may be standing at a tomb right now. Maybe it is a relationship that feels dead, a dream you have buried, a loss so heavy that even talking about it is hard. Maybe you have prayed and felt silence. Maybe, like Martha and Mary, you have thought, "Lord, if you had been here." Here is what the tears of Jesus tell you. He is not unmoved by your grief. He does not look at your pain from a distance and check boxes. The God who created the universe stood at a graveside and wept with his friends. He is not beyond your sorrow. He is inside it with you. And here is the second thing. He wept, and then he acted. His tears did not mean he was defeated by the moment. They meant he was fully present in it. And presence for Jesus always moves toward restoration. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain. Revelation 21:4. The one who wept at Lazarus's tomb is the same one who will one day wipe every tear. The God who enters our grief is the God who defeats it, not just in one garden outside Bethany, but ultimately, completely, forever. Jesus wept. 2 words. And in those 2 words, you see a God who is not above you in your pain. He is with you in it. He always has been. If you are carrying grief today, I want to leave you with this. You are not alone in it. The God of the universe knows your name the way he knew Lazarus's name. And one day, he will call you out of whatever tomb you are in. Until then, he weeps with you. If this video moved something in you, I would love for you to subscribe. We go deep into Scripture every week, not to lecture, but to discover together what has been there all along. And tell me in the comments, what is a verse or a story in Scripture that has meant the most to you in a hard season. I read every one.